Now to the issue of Homeland Security and a new book that tackles the subject issue in a different way. The book is called Terrorizing Ourselves, Why U.S. Counterterrorism Policy is Failing and How to Fix It. For more on the book, I'm joined live by Ben Friedman, a co-editor of the book. Ben, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here. Are we really terrorizing ourselves? I mean, isn't being worried good to some extent?
Yeah, a certain amount of worry is necessary and important, but I think that terrorists are in the business of making us afraid to achieve some political end. And when we overestimate their capability, when we say that they're an existential threat, when we compare them to Nazi Germany, we really do them a favor by making them into something that they only wish they could be. So I think that we ought to treat them like the outlaws and the sort of morally outrageous people that they are and hunt them and arrest them where we can, but not treat them as a sort of a civilizational threat to the United States.
Yeah, and you say that terrorism is mostly the product of local political fights, that it's not civilized clashes. Can you explain that?
Well, terrorism comes largely out of conflicts over territory, over who's going to be in charge of a particular country's government. Egypt was one of the sources of al-Qaeda. That's a fight about what sort of state Egypt is going to be. And it's not poverty, it's not people who hate freedom, it's these local political fights that generate most terrorism in the world. And the United States tends to become a target because we get involved in those fights. So we don't need to win those people over to liberal democracy or make them love us. Really, what we need to do is get out of their politics so they don't hate us so much that they spend their lives trying to kill Americans or helping those who do.
So how, in this day and age, living with so many threats, how do we determine which are the real threats and which are not?
Well, al-Qaeda is certainly a real threat, and we ought to focus on the highest consequence sorts of attacks, which are, loose nukes and biological terrorism. Now, as we say in this book, those are very low probability threats. That it's much harder to do that than you generally hear. But because the consequences are so high, you do want to focus on that and do simple things like securing fissile materials that will make us more secure. But, the sort of nightmare scenarios that we hear so often in the news are often really far-fetched, and we need intelligence to tell us, intelligence agencies to tell us which are the most plausible.
But Ben, what about the Faisal Shahads of the world out there? This guy comes in, sets up a car to blow up part of Times Square. While it may not have had the devastating effects that 9/11 did, for that area and for those people that could be maimed, if not killed by it, I mean, it's huge.
Well, the thing that I can say that politicians can't say is that some vulnerability is inevitable. We always want to try to stop those things, but we have to be aware that we can't stop every plot, and that, in a world full of propane tanks and dangerous people, there's just a certain amount of vulnerability that you have to live with. And going after every single possible vulnerability in every part of the United States is an overly expensive proposition that's going to bankrupt us without making us much safer. So we have to think about the costs and benefits of security measures pretty hard.
Okay. Ben Friedman, author, thank you very much for weighing in. Appreciate it. Good luck with the book.
Yeah. Thanks.